A quadratic equation is an equation that's written in the formula of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and a cannot be 0. There are three ways to solve quadratic equations, which are factoring, completing the square, and using the quadratic formula. An example of a quadratic equation would be 2x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0. In this quadratic equation, a would be 2, b would be 6, and c would be 4. One way to solve this equation is to factor it. In order to factor it, we must look at if each of the terms have a common factor, and if so, we can just divide the whole equation by that factor. In this case, it's 2, so let's divide it by 2. We get x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. And how do we simplify this? Well, we have to write it in the formula of x plus m times x plus n, where m and n are just some numbers. Now, to find m and n, the rules are that m plus n will equal b, which is 3 in our case, and n times n will equal 2, which is c. So, in this case, m will be 2 and n will be 1. Or the other way around, m could be 1 and n could be 2. So, simplifies to x plus 2 times x plus 1 equals 0. And to find x, we have to set both of these parentheses to 0. So we set x plus 2 equals 0 because if we multiply 0 by something, it's always 0. And x plus 1 equals 0. And we just do some algebra and find that x equals -2 or -1. And this is our answer. This is how you factor a quadratic equation. Sometimes we can't really factor the equation because it might be too hard, so we need to do the method of completing the square. And to do this method, first we need to find what b divided by 2 is. And again, b is just the number before this x. So in this case, it would be 6, positive 6. And we need to divide that by 2, and we get 3, and we write x plus that number squared. So since we got 3 from 6 divided by 2, we just write this squared. Minus 1 is equal to 0. But if you pay attention, this isn't equal because x squared plus 6x is not equal to x plus 3 squared. X plus 3 squared is actually x squared plus 6x plus 9. So in order to make these two sides equal, we must do minus 9 to this side as well. We can simplify this to x plus 3 squared minus 10 equals 0. And then x plus 3 squared equals 10. And let's just take the square root of both sides. So that would be x plus 3 equals square root of 10. But since we have x plus 3 squared equals 10, this can be positive or negative. So we just write positive or negative square root of 10. And then we get x equals -3 plus or minus the square root of 10. And these are our two answers. And sometimes it can be hard to factor and complete the square. And if you cannot do either, then what you can do is use the quadratic formula, which I've written right here. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And the formula is kind of large, but once you memorize it, this method becomes very simple. All you have to do is plug in each number to their respective values. So we already know that 2 is a, as we discussed in the beginning, 5 is b, and -3 will be c. So let's just plug in every single value. We get x equals -5 plus or minus 5 squared, which is 25, minus 4 times 2 times -3 to -3, and we put all of that over 2 times 2, which is 4. Let's simplify this now. So we get negative 5 plus or minus 25 minus negative 24, which would be plus 24 over 4. And we get this, negative 5 plus or minus, this is 49, and the square root of 49 will be 7. So we get this. And then let's split this up into 2. So negative 5 plus 7 over 4, or negative 5 minus 7 over 4. And we get 1/2 or negative 3 as our solutions to this equation. And don't forget to set it equal to x. Now let's start to do some practice problems. If you think you can do this one for yourself, then pause the video and try it. But this question is asking to solve this one by factoring it. So we look for any common factors first, and nope, we don't have any. So let's just use the formula x plus m times x plus n. And remember, m plus n is equal to negative 2, and n times n is equal to negative 15 in this case. So what numbers would work for m and n? Well, numbers that would work are negative 5 and 3. Now, if you didn't see that at first, it's okay. You just have to think about all the factors of 15 that would also add up to negative 2. And once you do factoring more and more, this will just come to you naturally, and you'll be able to solve these faster and faster. But look, negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2, and negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, so this number works. It's equal to 0, and we said x minus 5 is equal to 0, or x plus 3 equals 0, which means x equals 5 or negative 3. And this is how you solve this quadratic equation by factoring. Now, let's try another practice problem. If you think you can do this one by yourself, then pause the video and try it. But this question is asking to solve this quadratic equation by completing the square. Remember, to complete the square, we have to do x plus b over 2, which is 8, so 8 divided by 2, which is 4 squared. And then do minus 4, and we have to subtract whatever we added on by doing this. In this case, it would be 16, because 4 squared is 16. To find this number, you can always just do this last term squared, and then minus that term, and it will always be correct. Now, let's simplify this further. We get x plus 4 squared minus 20 equals 0, and we get x plus 4 squared is equal to 20, and we get x plus 4 equal to positive or negative square root of 20, and then we just get x equals negative 4 plus or minus square root of 20. And this is how you solve this quadratic by completing the square. Now, let's do another practice problem. If you think you can do this one by yourself, then pause the video and try it. But what this question is asking is to solve this quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula. If you forgot what the quadratic formula is, it is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And the only thing we have to do is plug in each number into their corresponding positions. So 3 would be a, 5 would be b, and 1 would be c. So we just do x equals negative 5 plus or minus square root of 25, because that's 5 squared, minus 4 times 3 times 1, which is 12, over 2 times 3, which is 6. And this is equal to negative 5 plus or minus square root of 25 minus 12, which is 13, over 6. And let's separate these into two. So we get x is equal to negative 5 plus square root of 13 over 6, or negative 5 minus square root of 13 over 6. And these are your two answers for this. And this method is very easy, but the hard part is memorizing this formula. Once you memorize this formula, this method is very reliable and easy, as you can use it for pretty much any quadratic you get. All you have to do is plug each number in if you know what a, b, and c are, and then you just simplify it and you get your answer. So everything that I just explained and all the problems that I went through should teach you everything that you need to know to solve quadratic equations. If you learned something from this video, or if you enjoyed it, then consider liking or subscribing, as it helps us a lot.